brothers and sisters, we've all turned up the radio to hear Brother Jimmy Lakey, from coast to coast and shore to shore. Now raise your voice, oh let us all, Jimmy Lakey, get out of bed, Jimmy Lakey, raise your voice, Jimmy Lakey, hey, can't live without it with Jimmy Lakey, Jimmy Lakey.
All right, top of the morning to you, my friends. Good to have you here on the program. It is a Thursday edition of the show. Thursday, what are we, the 22nd day of May, year of our Lord, 2025. Pleasure to have you here. Hope you feel good about being here. I feel so excited, and I know you probably have the same enthusiasm in your heart that here we are together again for conversation and all the stuff we can do together. All right, Thursday, 22nd day of May, year of our Lord, 2025. Coming up on the program about 1 hour from now, Jay Ratliff, our aviation and travel expert, will be with us. He always joins us on a Thursday morning of the show. So I keep bumping the mic and turning the volume off. But hey, here I am. Good to have you here on the show. And let's talk about Jay Ratliff coming up at 9 o'clock a.m., 11 o'clock Eastern time, 9 o'clock in the Mountain Time Zone. Also, Jeff Dornick is going to be on the show. He is founder and CEO of Picnics, and we're going to talk about the oligarchs is what we're going to talk about. This the tech titans and their influence in Washington and their influence in your politics. So that's coming up in 8:30 this morning Mountain Time, 10:30 Eastern Time. So wherever you're listening to the program, glad to have you here. I really sincerely am happy to have you here, and I got my blue shirt on, celebrating the blue backdrop. It's Rivers Promise charity of the day, as it is every day. And as you look at that, don't forget to donate, riverspromise.org. All right, looks like while you might have been sleeping or fading off into the dreamland last night, the big, beautiful bill passed the House of Representatives. Big credit if some people are giving to Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, for being able to narrowly get this through with a one-vote majority. President Donald Trump's one big, beautiful bill passed the House of Representatives early Thursday morning, so probably you were in slumberland, as I was. It is a significant victory for House Speaker Mike Johnson, who navigated deep inter-party friction with the House GOP conference to deliver a victory, and it's a product. The bill is a sweeping let's go through some of the highlights of it. Multi-trillion-dollar piece of legislation that advances Trump's agenda on taxes, immigration, energy, defense, and the national debt. It sought to make the dent in the federal spending trajectory by cutting $1.5 trillion in government spending elsewhere. The U.S. government is over $36 trillion in debt, has $1.05 trillion more than its uncollected the 2025 fiscal year, according to the Treasury Department. The bill passed by a 215 to 214 vote. Two Republicans, Thomas Massey of Kentucky and Warren Davidson, voted against the bill. All the Democrats voted against the bill as well. And House Freedom Caucus Chair Andy Harris voted present. But with absenteeisms and all the things, the numbers still worked out. Republicans spent more than 48 hours continuously working on the bill from the time it came from the House Rules Committee. The final gatekeeper of a House vote at 1 a.m. on Wednesday when it passed, and then at 7 a.m., so 5 a.m. on Thursday morning, Mountain Time, 7 a.m. Eastern Time, the bill passed. Mike Johnson said it's quite literally morning again in America. We are achieving today is nothing short of historic. And House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries says it's racist, bigot, homophobe, and and you're a Hitler. That's all the Democrats have. There's a bunch of name calling. He said this bill represents a failed promise. Last year, Donald Trump and the House Republicans spent all their time trying to lower the cost of high living in the United States. And he says now we are more than 120 days past the inauguration. Costs aren't going down, they're going up. Has anybody checked Hakeem's is he fogging a mirror properly? Does he have some kind of a brain tumor going on here? I'm not sure. Democrats evidently like to get cancer and not tell anybody. I ain't going to spread no rumors about Hakeem Jeffries, but has he seen the latest consumer price index numbers? Has he seen the cost of gasoline? Has he seen the cost of eggs? Hakeem Jeffries is out there saying costs are going up everywhere. Costs are going up everywhere. Well, actually, Hakeem, the last couple of weeks, they have gone down. And Hakeem Jeffries is the same brain-dead Democrat that a couple of months ago was saying Donald Trump has killed the stock market. He's killed the economy with his tariff talk. And you don't have to like the tariff talk, but guess what? The stock market is actually doing better than it was the day that Donald Trump got inaugurated into office back in January. So it is interesting to see that all Hakeem Jeffrey and the Democrats can do on this big, beautiful bill that has passed, all they seem to be able to do is say it's racist, bigot, homophobe. You guys are a bunch of Nazis. Sound like the latest presidential campaign. And costs are going up, and yet you're at the grocery store going, that carton of eggs was only $3.50, $3.80, $4.80, wherever it was, as opposed to where it had been. Anyway, congrats, I guess, to the Republicans. The big, beautiful bill has passed the House of Representatives, and it is now going to go to the U.S. Senate, and we will see what happens there. But it is one step down, and it's going to be fun times to watch this thing, because this will forever codify the Trump tax cuts that we talked about yesterday that were put in place in his first term. But the only way they could get the Trump tax cuts in the first term was to sunset them in about 7 or 8 years, and so they were going to sunset at the end of the year because you know how these jackasses in Washington D.C. do. They pass bills if it's a tax cut, they always have to go away. They're only temporary. If it's a tax increase, that is codified in there, and you're going to be stuck with that forever and ever and ever. So the big, beautiful bill has passed in Washington, D.C. in the House of Representatives, and is one step closer to being done. And originally they had said they want to be done by Memorial Day. I think they said 4th of July, then they said Memorial Day. And at least the House has hit that Memorial Day deadline. The big, beautiful bill has passed the U.S. House of Representatives. Tragedy in Washington, D.C. Overnight, the anti-Semitism of the modern-day Democrat Party has whooped someone up into a frenzy to where they're shooting Israeli diplomats on the street after an event at the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. 2 diplomats, a couple, a man and a woman, that were soon to be planning to be engaged very soon. 2 Israeli diplomats were shot and killed during an event at the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. What's happened is you have the modern-day Democrat Party going down the seashore looking for seashells and seeing messages like 86 Jews. I mean, they've been in the Democrat Party. Biden voters have been chanting in Columbia. The Democrats can't seem to condemn the anti-Semites in their ranks, and all of a sudden you have 2 Jewish people killed in the streets of Washington, D.C. Why? I would say because of the hype and the rhetoric and the hatred that has been fomented by the modern-day Democrat Party, lack of condemnation. And so, hey, well, you keep getting messages like 86 the Jews from the Democrats out there. They evidently, Democrats get their marching orders from seashells on the seashore. So I wonder, this pro-Palestinian man who's now in custody, if he got his message from the seashells on the seashore as well, because we do know that James Comey has now inspired a whole new line of threats against Republicans online and against the presidency. Secret Service and Capitol Police say that the threats against Republicans have gone up since James Comey, that narcissist asswipe, has found seashells on the seashore while he was walking on the seaside. You get the idea. Pro-Palestinian man, also inspired by radical Democrat talk, in my estimation, is in custody, allegedly killing 2 Israeli embassy staff members overnight. They were leaving an event at the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. The Embassy of Israel to the United States identified them as Yaron Leshinsky and Sarah Milgram. They were both set to be engaged. Stephen Jensen, the FBI's assistant director in charge of the Washington field office, said the agency is investigating the heinous crime for hate crime motivation or ties to potential terrorism. A D.C. Metro Police officer, Chief Pamela Smith, said in a news conference that officers responded to multiple calls of a shooting near the museum at around 9 p.m. Eastern time, 7:08 p.m. West Central Mountain Time. Authorities arrived. The man and woman were found unconscious, not breathing, and despite life-saving efforts, both were pronounced dead at the scene. The guy that did it is a 30-year-old, or allegedly did it. He's been arrested, identified as Elias Rodriguez of Chicago, and is believed to have committed the act alone and is in custody. And they should check his phone to see if he had any motivation from the radical Democrat Party. Maybe Hakeem Jeffries might have motivated him. James Comey's been promoting violence and hatred and fomenting that. The Columbia University, the Ivy League schools, have been fomenting anti-Israel and anti-Semitic hatred. So it looks like they got a guy finally with all their tweets and all the radicalism that was deep enough into the insanity world that he decided to go murder people on the streets, motivated, I'm guessing, by the messages that have been fomented again by the Democrat Party. Now, in a real ripe statement, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser described this shooting as horrific and has assured the community there's no active threat here. We will not tolerate this violence or hate. Muriel, you jackwagon, you and your party have been rousing up this hatred and intolerance. You're the one that your party right there at Columbia University and other places have not let Jewish people cross the street. It is real rich for any Democrat like Muriel Bowser, the jackwagon that she is, to come out and say, we will not tolerate this violence or hate. Isn't it hate when you won't let Jewish kids go to class? Isn't it hate when you're talking about from the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free? And that's the mantra of your party. Muriel Bowser, shut your damn pie hole. You have no right to lecture us about what you're going to tolerate or not tolerate. You have tolerated all sorts of hate speech. You have tolerated people in your party, leaders in your party, refusing to condemn the anti-Semitism that's walking out there. Muriel Bowser, I will say this because I'm a man and I ain't afraid of you, woman. You have blood on your hands. You and your party have caused this kind of violence in the street. You can go out there and say, quote, we will not tolerate any acts of terrorism. We will not tolerate anti-Semitism. Muriel Bowser, Democrats, can you tell me what you have done in the last little bit, the last few months, the last year or so, since the October 7th attacks? Can you tell me what you have ever done to stand up against anti-Semitism? Can you name one leader in your party that has actually rebuked the anti-Semitism? Muriel Bowser, the poster child of idiots when it comes to Democrat mayors and the Democrat Party. Muriel Bowser, who refused to accept the National Guard that Donald Trump recommended on January the 6th. Muriel Bowser says we won't tolerate anti-Semitism or violence or hatred. And yet, Muriel, you have done exactly that. You have fomented. You have stirred this up. The pot has been boiling here with anti-Semitism because of you and your party. Muriel Bowser, I'll say it. You have blood on your hands, and so does the Democrat Party. Chuck Schumer, you have the blood of these two diplomats on your hand. Hakeem Jeffries, you have the blood of these two diplomats on your hand. Because when these jackass protesters are out at Harvard or wherever they're at, these youngsters out there, hear that you and their political gods aren't condemning it, they think that they're saving America. It's kind of like the violence against Donald Trump. You Democrats out there fomented violence against President Trump because you said he was Hitler. And so suddenly you have people that think if he's Hitler, I'm Captain America. I'm going to save democracy. Democrats, when these murders happen, anti-Semitism, you have blood on your hands because it's people that get stirred up into a frenzy because you won't rebuke anti-Semitism. And now you have an anti-Semitic murder on the streets of Washington, D.C., and to hell with all you Democrats, you anti-Semites out there. Where's the condemnation? Even our own Governor Jared Polis is supposedly a good Jewish boy, right? He's supposed to be a good Jew. Has he condemned the anti-Semitism? Well, that's not happening in his state. Well, it doesn't matter. Why don't you be a leader? Where's this Josh Shapiro guy that's supposedly a real big man in Pennsylvania? The Democrats have buyer's remorse. They wish they would have gotten him instead of Timmy Waltz. Has Shapiro come out with a loud microphone? And maybe Shapiro has, but guess what? The media keeps him quiet. The same way the media stays quiet on the mental health of Joe Biden, the same way the media doesn't want to elevate or promulgate or propagate anybody out there standing up against the anti-Semites of the Democrat Party. Democrats, you need to have a come to Jesus meeting regarding the anti-Semitism and the hatred in your party because you have brought about this type of behavior. Agree or disagree? Am I being too hard on the Democrats out there, or am I being right down the right down the truth hole to tell you that they have the violence on the street, tragic as it was in D.C. The Democrats have nobody to blame but themselves, and Muriel Bowser's a jackwagon for trying to comment otherwise. All right, let's see what else we got here. Anything more positive to talk about? Let's do a happy story. Shall we do a happy story? Good morning, Jimmy and producer Chad comes on the screen. Watching and listening to your show in AR. That's not a gun, my friends. That's Arkansas. That's the abbreviation. I'm helping you out there. Good morning from the SLV. SLV, Salt Lake, SLV. Is that like an SUV? Top of the morning to you from Laramie. Laramie's checking in this morning. Good to see Laramie up in action. Laramie, Wyoming. 911 dispatch just sent me an injury accident to respond to. Be back after I help. After I hope. So Andy Smith is a first responder. Andy, thank you for your service. If we were charging you anything, we'd give you a first responder discount for serving your community. But 911 has sent him to an accident. So be safe out there, Andy. Be safe. Dennis says SLV is the San Luis Valley of Colorado. Well, thanks, Dennis. We're glad that we have to have. Dennis has to bring his own translator to the conversation. San Luis Valley. Kevin says, good morning, gentlemen. Happy Friday. Quite a busy travel day here at the DIA, which I do know that stands for Denver International Airport. Busy travel day. People going to, people going fro, and hey, ho. There's some rhyme here I should put in here. All right, let's do some happy stories. What shall we say? If you've got a person heading off to college, a high schooler going to head off to college and maybe get a degree, first of all, try to let them know that college degrees are not necessarily required for everybody. There's a lot of great jobs in trade school that we should probably emphasize more. But here's what you should know is that these college degrees that pay the absolute least out there. So warn those high school graduates out there that if you're going to go get a degree, you probably don't want to get one in the number 10 unless you feel the calling of God. You might want to avoid that degree in theology and religion. The last 7 on the list are all tied at $42,000 a year is kind of the average of what you can make. And I don't know if you know it, but you can't live off $42,000 a year in Colorado if you're going to, live somewhere above a homeless situation. Social services is number 9. Biological science is another one, like a lab tech or a research assistant. Don't do it. You're not going to make any money. General education degree. You want to be a teacher? Don't be kvetching in a few years that you're underpaid. You're going into the profession knowing that you're going to be underpaid. Family and consumer sciences is another one that is a low-paying college degree. Early childhood education. Again, if you feel called to educate the little ones, God bless you, but you ain't going to make any money, and good luck. Number 4 is anthropology. If you know any anthropology majors, they're not going to make. These are the top 10 college degrees that pay the least. Performing arts. Unless you're going to be a Hollywood celebrity big time, you're not going to make any money in the performing arts industry. So suck it up, buttercup, and stop trying. You're going to be poor. General social sciences. You're not going to make any money. That's where you get a job like a youth counselor or a teacher's aide. It all looks good on paper until you try to retire. It all looks good on paper until you try to go to vacation. It all looks good on paper until you try to buy a house or a new car. You're not going to make any money. And the number 1 of college degrees that is going to pay you the least amount of money is majoring in a foreign language. If you got a youngster out there thinking of heading and majoring off to the foreign language, it's the lowest on the scale of degrees with low-paying jobs, and it's the lowest at about $40,000 a year. So the top 10 range from about $42,000 to about $40,000, and you're not going to be able to raise a big family on that one. So careful out there as you give those graduates their gifts. Warn them about those college degrees that they should not be getting because some of them are very, very disastrous. All right, we did that story here. What else do we have? Oh, I've got another story that I want to dive into this morning is summer camp chaos. If you're in Colorado, you might have heard of a summer camp. That's a Christian summer camp that the kids go to. It's Camp Idra Haje. That is inspired by the song is an abbreviation, I'd Haji. It's the first letters of the words, I'd rather have Jesus, which is an old gospel hymn, I guess. I'd rather have Jesus. Camp I'd Haji. Well, they have gone to court and they're suing Jared Polis and the Colorado government. The Christian Summers Camp that is located east of Breckenridge, Colorado, is suing Colorado Department of Early Childhood over a gender identity-based regulation inspired by our feckless, foolish, I almost said something else, Governor Jared Polis, inspired by their inspiration. It requires campers to be allowed to use private bathing, dressing, and sleeping facilities of the opposite sex. I've never been to Camp Idra Haji. My son never went there. I do remember my early days of Colorado radio. They were actually advertisers on one of my radio shows. I do remember that, and I had to speak and interview and talk to them, but I remember they were great people back in those days. I'm guessing it's still the same. But Idra Haji has said, hey, we want a waiver from your regulations that says when we have a summer camp where kids come and live for weeks at a time, that boys can sleep in the girls' facilities and the girls can sleep in the boys' facility. And, oh, by the way, shower, scrub-a-dub-dub. You got 3 boys in your tub, and they're going to watch that little girl, make sure she gets all cleaned up. Camp Idra Haji said, this is perverted, Jared Polis. Why would you allow such perversion and sickness? Why would you allow such degradation of moral standards, Jared Polis? Well, because Jared Polis is devoid of morals, I think is how you can argue with that. According to a news release sent out by the Alliance Defending Freedom, lawyers representing the 75-year-old camp, Idra Haji, said when Idra Haji requested to run its camp in line with its religious beliefs, the Jared Polis appointed Department of Early Childhood in the state of Colorado denied the request for Idra Haji to run their summer camp within the boundaries of Christian ethics and Christian belief system, and they forced the camp to choose between upholding its beliefs about biological sex or risk losing its license and abandoning its beliefs so that mission to minister to children. So the Alliance Defending Freedom is a public interest law firm in Colorado, and they said, hey, we're going to take the state of Colorado and the godless, soulless Jared Polis to court for saying that, hey, when you have a summer camp all summer, that the 12, 13, 14-year-old boys that want to identify as girls, yeah, they can sleep right in the bunk dorms with them. They can get in the showers with them. Whatever it is to promote the agenda of there's not just 2 biological sexes, and the Colorado Christian camps are now being forced to give in to this wackiness and this mental illness is perpetrated by people like Jared Polis and the modern Democrat Party. Idra Haji has been operating since 1948. It's held a resident camp license since 1995. It serves about 2,500 to 3,000 children every summer. The children that go to the camp range from 6 years old until 17 years of age. They live on the camp property for as many days at a time, and they go backpacking, camping, and all the things that they normally do. And according to the lawsuit, they promote Christianity through worship. And the argument from Alliance Defending Freedom for Idra Haji is, quote, the government, Jared Polis, you jackwagon, have no place telling religious summer camps that it's lights out for upholding their religious beliefs for human sexuality. He says, we urge the court to allow Idra Haji to operate just the way it has for over 75 years as a Christian summer camp that accepts all campers without fear of being punished for its beliefs. And if you want to be a kid that is a camper and you're struggling in your gender identity, or you think you may be homosexual, or you think you may be a horn dog heterosexual, whatever your issue is, that's your issue. But you don't get to shower with people of the opposite gender. You don't get to sleep in the same bunk room as them. And we're going to tell you and teach what Christian morality and Christian ethics say regarding the topic of this of sexuality, period, the end. And it's kind of sad. And look at this as just another instance in which the state of Colorado is having to be sued so that people of Christian faith can actually practice their faith the way that they want to. Remember this, when Jared Polis decides to run for president, remember Jared Polis is a godless, soulless being that claims to be a very good Jewish guy. I don't think he's ever condemned anti-Semitism in his life. And he also had to be sued at the height of COVID. He had to be sued so that people could go back to worship in the state of Colorado. Jared Polis would let the pot shop stay open. He'd let the brewery stay open. By the way, it's National Distillery Day, a small brew distillery day. And so in Colorado, that should be a holiday because we have so many of these things. But Jared Polis had to be sued at the height of COVID by Christians that they were allowed to go back and worship. You could go to the strip club, you could go to the pot shop, but Jared Polis did everything within his godless fingers' power to keep you out of the house of worship. Jared Polis had to be fought all the way to the Supreme Court so that you could go to the house of worship and worship the way that you desire to worship. And when the Bible says, don't forsake the assembling of yourselves together, I know a lot of folks skip the church, even despite the conversation of don't despise it, don't forget the assembling of yourselves together. That's a message in the Christian faith, to go to church. And Jared Polis wanted you to have to violate your faith and force it, and he did it in the name of it's public safety. And now he's wanting a Christian ministry camp that is operated in the boundaries of the state of Colorado to have to forego their Christian teachings on sexuality or risk losing their license. And those Christian teachings, not just what comes out of your mouth and in the Bible study and in the sermons that you preach, but you also need to let 16-year-old boys that are mentally lapse and think that they're a girl sleep in the girls' dormitory, and Jared Polis is all for that. So does anybody else see the pattern here? We can go through another list of things that our governor Jared Polis has done that shows Jared Polis is not a very friendly person when it comes to people expressing their Christian faith, because Jared Polis thinks him and his godless Democrats down at the state capitol, they should be your God. They set your morality. They set the policy, and you just have to suck it up, buttercup. And if your Bible or if your Jesus gets in the way of what Jared Polis wants, Jared Polis doesn't give a rat's ass. If your Jesus gets in the way of what Jared Polis and the merry band of Democrats in the state of Colorado want, then you must be a racist. You must be a homophobe. No, I'm just a Christian. I just read the Bible. Shut up, you homophobe. You got to stop teaching that. That's the philosophy of Jared Polis and the modern day Democrats. Anybody ever supported the ministry of Idra Haji, Camp Idra Haji? I know they got a free law firm, but they could probably use your help, and they could probably use your prayers as they continue to be attacked. Just like, remember, Jared Polis, and it happened before Jared Polis, but it continues to happen. The baker, the Masterpiece Cake Baker, at the bakery there in the Littleton Lakewood area, I believe. Jared Polis and his merry band of Democrats tried to force this guy to make wedding cakes to celebrate gay marriages, and he says, I'm sorry, I can't. I'll make you any kind of cake you want, but I'm not going to celebrate your homosexual marriage because it violated this guy's Christian beliefs. And they did everything they can by the Colorado Democrat Party to make Jack Phillips' life hell for about the last decade, and definitely continuing through the term of Jared Polis. So if you want to watch us from the outside of the state of Colorado and you look at the state of Colorado, you need to know that when Jared Polis announces his name to become the president of the United States, mainstream America will not agree with him when it comes to your faith and exercise of your religion. Only, I guess, the godless Democrats would probably side with that. The godless Democrat Party will come out there and say, hey, I'm a Jewish governor and I don't have to condemn anti-Semitism. I just have to condemn Christians wanting to teach about sexuality. I just have to condemn. That's where their condemnation is at. Their condemnation for the last many years has not been about the radicals taking over their party. Their condemnation has been about Christians that want to get together and have a house of worship because Jared Polis thought the Booger Cootie virus is too dangerous for you. Wasn't dangerous at the pot shop. It wasn't dangerous at the strip club. But good Lord in heaven, it's dangerous if those Christians want to get together. And it's very dangerous for Christians to have biblical teaching on homosexuality and transgenderism. Very, very dangerous. And they threaten a summer camp that has served kids for a long time. I saw a big message from Ray pop up on the screen. It cut off half my face. I didn't read it. Let me read it now. You've already seen it, guys. Jimmy, isn't it funny that Democrats will use the separation of church and state when they feel the church is stepping on their toes? but the state has no problem smashing the toes of the church. You're right, Ray. This is the modern Democrat Party. This is what we've seen out of the history and the practice of Jared Polis, that Jared Polis, who wants you to be a godless, immoral, morally bankrupt society. He wants you to get your morality and marching orders from him and the modern-day Democrat Party. And if you dare open up those 66 books of the Bible, you're probably, again, they'll call you a racist, bigot, homophobe, and the Colorado Department of Early Childhood Education will threaten to take away your ability to have kids come to a summer camp because they don't like it that you would dare every once in a while perhaps open up that book called the Bible and say, yes, that's the book for me. They don't like that. It makes the Democrats very nervous. It makes Jared Polis very nervous. And this is once again a time that people of faith, from Jack Phillips to churches that had to sue during COVID, and now in Camp Idrahaji, they have to sue Jared Polis so that they have the right to actually practice the Christian faith and their faith as they want to. And so this is the state of Colorado, that if you really want to pursue your walk and your teachings when it comes to a biblical framework, you're probably going to have to defend them. In the Bible days, they got killed for their faith. You just have to sue for your faith. It's different. But hey, give them time. Give them time. They'll find a gas chamber or something for you. That's what the modern day Democrat Party seems to be: is worship us, worship the state, worship gender ideology, and the rest of it to hell with it. Just do what we say, and don't you dare go to that house of worship because you may get a virus. All right. Do I have any other happy stories you would say? I should have a happy story or five. The most sleep-deprived cities in America. Anybody live in the sleep-deprived world? How many of you, raise your hand, unless you're driving, feel as if you are sleep-deprived? I'm raising my hand. Now, it's partially, now that I'm not doing morning radio, it's partially due to my own fault that I sometimes stay up later than I should. And it is all about rebellion, because for years I was waking up at 3 or 4 in the morning. And when I was unleashed from the confines of corporate radio, I no longer had to wake up at 3 or 4 purposely every day to do that. And the good thing about that is you get to sleep longer if you go to bed on time. But because I was having to go to bed so early and miss out on so much fun for years of my life, I just had to call it a night, especially this time of year when it's dark, when it's not even dark outside, and you're trying to go to sleep, and you hear the kids are playing in the streets, and everybody's gathered in the cul-de-sac, and you're like, I want to be a human. I want to be real. I want to have fun, but you can't. You got to go to bed because you have to make the donuts in the morning, right? Well, I spent years doing that. I spent years doing that, and now that I don't have to do that, I stay up late, and then I go, oh, I still got to wake up early. Not as early as I did. Anyway, the sleepiest, most sleep-deprived towns in America. Let's see. What do we got? The 10 least sleep-deprived. Let's see who's on that list. Minneapolis is not sleep-deprived. Seattle is not so sleepless. They're doing all right. San Jose, California. Madison, Wisconsin. Boise, Idaho. And St. Paul, Minnesota. Evidently sleep a lot. They get good sleep in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And they're probably just trying to stay asleep and in a comatose state as long as they know that their governor is Tampon Timmy Walz. They just want to sleep through that as well. Here's how they decided. A research team used data from the Centers for Disease Control to look into sleep habits of people in about 100 major cities. And then they put out a list of the most sleep-deprived cities in America, and the 10 most sleep-deprived are, number 10, Memphis, Tennessee. Hello, Memphis. Cleveland, Ohio. They're probably losing sleep over having a team called the Browns. Cleveland, Ohio is probably sleeping to try not to hear Shadur Sanders mouth off and be a punk and a brat. That's probably what they're doing there. Laredo, Texas. I don't know why you're not sleeping in Laredo. Yeah, there's not much else to do in Laredo unless you're crossing the border illegally. I'm thinking Laredo, get some sleep down there. Makes me want to sing the song about the streets of Laredo. Tom Tancredo always loves singing that when he's running for governor. Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. You love each other so much you're not sleeping very well. Indianapolis, not sure why you're not sleeping, but you should be asleep. Cincinnati, Ohio. Ohio, you have a problem. Cleveland, Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio, and Toledo, Ohio are all people that are not sleeping enough. And maybe it's just people shocked that they're still living in the state of Ohio. I don't know. I mean, you got a J.D. Vance as your VP. You got national championships going. You should be able to rest easy in Ohio. But on the top 10, there's 3 places, Toledo, Cincinnati, and Cleveland, that have made the most sleepless places out there. Detroit, Michigan is up singing Eminem songs, and that they're busy. They're Motown music. They're busy. Now, New Orleans, you kind of understand why they don't get a lot of sleep there. There's a 24-hour day party there. You would think Las Vegas would also be kind of a sleep-deprived city, but it's not on the list. But New Orleans is. NOLA is on the list. And then you got Norfolk, Virginia. They're on the list, top number 1. So anyway, get some sleep out there, kids. Get your sleep if you can. It makes you very healthy. All right, some of you commenting in the chat room. Always love to hear from you. Whether you're watching us on the Facebook or the Twitter or the YouTube, love to hear from you. I see most of the comments this morning are coming on the Facebook, and appreciate that. We saw Ray, who commented earlier, talking about the separation of church and state. He was on the YouTube. Shout out to our YouTubers out there. Also, Cody says, hello, I'm a straight white Christian Republican male. How else can I offend you today? Oh, yeah, so offensive, Cody. You must be a racist, bigot, homophobe is what you must be, Cody, because you're a white Christian male and a Republican, too. Oh, my goodness, you are, Cody. You got to go to sensitivity training here real soon, brother. It's going to have to happen. Linda says, do you think Jared Polis would melt into a puddle of sewage if you threw holy water on him? I don't know, but if I'm around Jared Polis, I think everybody have garlic and a cross hanging around my neck. I think that's probably a better idea. Arloa says, we're sleep deprived due to moving into a new house. So Arloa is sleep deprived down in Texas. Well, Arloa, I got some people. We'll send them over to help you move. How about that? Send some movers. When's the last time you helped somebody move? It's been a while. Oh, probably because I have a sign that says, don't ask me to help you move. Nobody's asked me to help them move in a while. It's been like a long time ago. Anyway, good to have all of you here on the show. Jimmy is my name. Pleasure to be here. Want to remind you again that we have lots of great conversations still to come in the program. If you want to jump in anywhere on the Facebook feed or the Twitter feed or the X feed, you can do so, and you jump into the conversation by just chatting, and it pops up here on the screen, and we pop it here on the screen here so everybody can see it. All right, Kenneth Abramowitz is hanging out in the green room. We bring him into the conversation to talk about some of the things happening in the Middle East today. Abramowitz, welcome back to the show, sir.
Hey, great to be with you.
I haven't talked to you since we had President Trump traipsing around Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the Saudi Arabian crown prince, that he's the president of the world now. Were you impressed with watching Donald Trump try to somehow bring peacefulness to the Middle East and trying to get people into the Abraham Accords?
Yes, it was quite an amazing trip. And obviously, the host spared no expense to entertain him in the entourage. And so I was very happy with how Saudi Arabia went in the Gulf states. I was not as happy about Qatar, because Qatar is a half friend and half enemy, known as a frenemy. And I think you should treat frenemies different than friends. But anyways, I still give high marks for the trip.
The voice of Kenneth Abramowitz, if you're listening on the podcast version later. If you're watching live, of course, you see him. But if you're listening later, that's the voice of Kenneth Abramowitz. He's written a book called The Multi-Front War, Defending America from Political Islam, China, Russia, Pandemics, and the Racial Strife. And we bring him into the conversation to talk a little bit about Trump's trip to the Middle East and the problem that we have with Iran. Mr. Abramowitz, some people say that this trip was able to kind of isolate Iran more. People that maybe had been allied with Iran were seen trying to kind of nuzzle up to President Trump. Iran's still trying to develop this nuclear weapon. There's talk that whether it's the U.S. or Israel, somebody's going to have to destroy their capabilities. What say you? Are we still headed towards a military confrontation against Iran to get rid of their nuclear production facilities for weapons?
Yes, negotiating with Iran is like negotiating with Nazi Germany in 1939. When you're dealing with a death cult, there's no negotiated settlement with the death cult. So I expect it to end in a sustained bombing campaign for just a few weeks to destroy Iran's nuclear sites. I just don't think they're going to negotiate away those nuclear bombs, because Iran's promised to kill everyone in America, everyone in Israel, and everyone in the world that's not like them. So when you're that mentally disturbed, you quest to take over the world, you have to keep your nukes, even if you get blown up along the way.
We do know that right before President Trump traveled to the Middle East last week, the Hamas terrorists decided to release the last American hostage that was still alive there. Talk about the release of that hostage and how many hostages are still there. Our media did barely cover that we had American citizens that were held hostage there, and they're definitely not reporting that Israel still has a lot of its men, women, and children being held hostage by Hamas terrorists. Talk about the release that happened of that last American terrorist. And are we going to see the release of the rest of these prisoners?
Well, I'm told there's 58 hostages left, of which about 20 are living. So there's only a few ways to get the hostages back. Right now, Israel is trying the pressure on Hamas strategy. They called up 70,000 reserves, and they're entering all aspects of Gaza. And they hope to put so much pressure on Hamas that Hamas surrenders at least perhaps 10 of the 20 living hostages. So that's what Israel's strategy is. There's a minority of Israelis, maybe 25%, that basically want Israel to surrender to Hamas and get the hostages that way. But bear in mind, the hostages are really controlled by Qatar and Iran, not by Hamas. So the question is, what does Qatar and Iran want? And they want Israel bogged down forever fighting in Gaza. And that's why they don't want to release the hostages.
Kenneth Abramowitz is my guest. He's written a book called The Multi-Front War, Defending America from Political Islam, China, Russia, Pandemics, and Racial Strife. Also the managing partner of NGN Capital, a $450 million worldwide healthcare venture capital fund, etc. But again, Kenneth Abramowitz, The Multi-Front War. Mr. Abramowitz, President Trump and his administration seem to be approaching the Middle East slightly different. We mentioned the trip there and meeting with their frenemy that we'd have to call Qatar and Qatar, as some people say, but they've also opened some kind of a direct line of communication with the mullahs in Iran and are communicating directly with Iran, and under the caveat that you're going to take a deal peacefully or it's going to be thrust upon you very violently. Give me your thoughts about this new Trump strategy that's different from previous policies, that we're really in direct conversations with the mullahs in Iran.
Yes, well, the previous administration was, you could call Neville Chamberlain lookalike administration. They were trying to appease Iran. The new administration doesn't want to defeat Iran. They just want them to give up their nuclear weapons and their enrichment capabilities. Also, Iran finances 600,000 worldwide terrorists. And the Trump administration should insist that Iran stop financing 600,000 worldwide terrorists. So if I were running the negotiations, I would insist on even more things out of Iran. But it doesn't matter. Iran's not giving up anything anyways. And that's why I think there's no non-military solution to this problem. These are Islamo-Nazis, and I think they'll go down dying rather than negotiating.
Which brings me to the next question that I had. President Trump seems to think that he's the art of the deal guy, and he can put a deal together, and Iran's going to straighten up and fly right, and go be nice to Qatar, and they have a big military base there they've invested in, but as you said, they're a frenemy. He seems to think that either just through the force of his personality or the force of talking about trade and finance, that some of these governments that maybe have not been anti-terrorist or maybe have been actual supporters of terrorism will shift back around, all for the sake of Trump's force of personality or because of a trade deal. Do you see either of those able to bring about any type of non-military interaction, or is force the only thing that's going to happen here?
Well, I think the strategy is sound to try to isolate Iran. By the way, he's also trying to isolate Russia and China by showing that there's huge amount of progress and economic growth coming, and they're not going to be part of it. So it's a good strategy, but it's not enough to convince Islamo-Nazis to give up their quest to take over the world. Also, I call Iran a death cult. They just enjoy killing people. They promised to kill all the Christians in America and all the Jews in Israel. So the history of evil people is they don't negotiate away their evility. I don't know if that's a, I don't think that's a word, but
You just made it a word. It's a new word.
Their new word. Call it their evilness. Would be a better way to say it. So I think there's no non-military solution. So to me, the question is, will America do the job, which it's America's job to do, because America has the big planes and the big bombs, or will they basically let Israel do it? And America supplies Israel with 2/3 of its weapons. So if Israel does it, it's indirectly America. But one of the things you can think of it this way is in Israel, if Netanyahu government blows up Iran nuclear sites, their popularity goes up. If in America, Trump administration blows up their nuclear sites, his popularity goes down. So they're both democracies, but with different mentalities. And the Israelis are determined to win right now. October 7th was such a tragedy for the country that they're out for winning. America, being not as affected, wants to tie. So the Trump administration is in the tying mode. The Israel government is in the winning mode.
The name of your book is called The Multi-Front War, Defending America from Political Islam, China, Russia, Pandemics, and Racial Strife. I would think the last administration did not do a good job at defending America from a lot of those topics. One of those on your list, though, is China. And the White House has had this tariff battle going back and forth with China. Last week, our Scott Bessent, our Treasury Secretary, said, we have the framework of a deal in the next 60, 90 days, and we don't need decoupling from China. That's not what we're in the mood for. Give me your thoughts. Are we doing all that we can as a U.S. to defend ourselves against China and their influence?
Well, again, go back to what I just said. The Trump administration is in the business of tying. By the way, the Biden administration was in the business of losing. So we spent 4 years being part of an administration, part of a country run by a government dedicated to losing. Trump alternates between tying and winning, tying and winning. But ultimately, he's a fair guy. He's a business guy. And in business, we have an expression, everything should be win-win. When you do a negotiated deal over buying a business, selling a business, whatever it is. So Trump, in his heart, wants to tie China, wants to tie Iran, and doesn't publicly says, I don't like conflicts, I resolve conflicts. The challenge he has is you can resolve conflicts among human beings. But many times human beings behave like animals, like the China government and the Iranian government and the Russian government. So when you have enemies that behave like animals, you can't treat them like human beings and expect the proper answer.
The name of your book is called The Multi-Front War, Defending America from Political Islam, China, Russia, Pandemics, and Racial Strife. People that are big Donald Trump fans say, well, he must be doing a lot better job than the previous administration at defending America. Do you think that we've at least kind of put our stride in the right direction under the president? And what are the landmines that we still are maybe not paying attention to when it comes to defending America from political Islam, China, Russia, pandemics, racial strife? What are the landmines that maybe nobody's paying attention to? They see the big story, Trump tours the Middle East. They see the big story that we have a trade deal with China. What are the landmines that no one's paying attention to?
Well, I divide, sometimes I pretend I'm a professor and I give out grades. And I just wrote something on my website, SaveTheWest.com, highlighting a grade of A for Trump in domestic policy. So I think I'm very happy with what he's doing domestically. For foreign policy, I gave him a grade of B because I don't think he's tough enough. So to answer your question of landmines, the landmines is Iran, China, and Russia are run by human beings, but they behave like animals. And Trump's going to have to be tougher with them. And so that would be the key landmine that I would highlight.
Kenneth Abramowitz, author of the book called The Multi-Front War, Defending America from Political Islam, China, Russia, Pandemics, and Racial Strife. Kenneth, you mentioned your website, SaveTheWest.com. What will folks find on your website dedicated to saving Western civilization? Really, you think we got to save ourselves from ourselves? We could be our worst enemy. What do they find at SaveTheWest.com?
Yes, I write an article every 2 weeks. So what they'll find is there's a pop-up menu. They can put their email address in. It's a public service, and they'll sign up for my website articles that I publish every 2 weeks. And each 2 weeks, I look at another aspect of Western civilization and what we have to do to save ourselves from ourselves, because we have to be tougher. I have an expression: evil people are good at being evil. Good people are bad at being good. So we have to become better at being good. And so every 2 weeks, I give some advice of how we can be better at being good.
The website is called SaveTheWest.com. All right, the question is begging to be asked, Mr. Abramowitz. I don't know if you just have a background on, or if you're sitting in a city bus. Are you driving the bus? Are you the passenger of the bus? Or is this just a fancy background you have up?
Well, you won't believe this, but I'm in Israel right now. I'm on a tour bus with 20 friends. Fortunately, they're all looking at some site. We're in the Negev, in the south of Israel, and so the bus is quiet now because they left. And it was just in time for me to be with you today, and so that's why I'm on this tour bus in southern Israel, looking at the Gaza, what's called the Gaza envelope, where Israel was attacked on October 7th and didn't defend itself until the government didn't defend itself, the army didn't defend itself, but what I call we the people, not me, but the people of Israel rose up, and there were probably 1,000 people that ran into the line of fire and saved Israel on October 7th.
Well, enjoy the tour bus, sir. Let me ask you, obviously, there's a lot of my listeners or viewers that have been to Israel. A lot of folks, they would love to go to the Holy Land. Do you feel safe there? Have you noticed from previous trips, and what's the security like, knowing that there's ongoing conflict now?
I tell people, if you remember from Star Trek, where you could beam people down somewhere, if I could beam your listeners to Israel, they would find out that it's a pretty normal place. And normal people do what normal people do, and they would enjoy themselves very much. Unfortunately, many of the tourists, I'll guess 80% of the tourists, have been scared away. So therefore, the hotels are not as busy as obviously they could be. But in terms of the normal population doing normal things, you'd find yourself just at home in Israel.
Kenneth Abramowitz, SaveTheWest.com. And again, the name of his book, The Multi-Front War, Defending America from Political Islam, China, Russia, Pandemics, and Racial Strife. Kenneth, I feel bad. I'm keeping you off the tour. Your friends are all seeing something. What are you, as soon as you hang up, what are you going to go see? What are you going to get off that bus and see?
By the way, it's always a pleasure to be with you. We stopped at a place that serves soldiers food, and free food for the soldiers, and it's like a gathering spot where soldiers can relax at the end of the day and enjoy some company and good food, because they work from 6 o'clock in the morning. It's now almost 6 o'clock in the afternoon. They worked a full day, and this is like a rest spot for them for an hour. So I'll go in and congratulate and say hello to the soldiers.
Say hello to the soldiers, and God bless the IDF. Mr. Abramowitz, thank you so much for your time, sir.
Great to be with you always.
You got it. SaveTheWest.com, SaveTheWest.com, SaveTheWest.com. All right. Good to have all of you out there listening to the program. That was Kenneth Abramowitz. If you're listening on the podcast version of the show, you don't see his face. He was sitting on a tour bus. And, now in the world of Zoom, I oftentimes wonder, is that a real background or a fake background? I had a Zoom call with someone last week. I thought they literally were in a penthouse suite overlooking an ocean. It was the best background. If I ever do a Zoom background, and I use this background anytime I have to do a call, I'm in this studio or the other studio, I've got backgrounds out. But if I ever try to do a different, one of those green screen backdrops. They just don't work as well. But I thought that was a real backdrop for Kenneth, and evidently it was. Evidently it was a real backdrop for him. All right, good to have all of you here. Want to remind you, Jay Ratliff, aviation travel expert, coming up here in just a few moments. You don't want to miss Jay. Also, can I remind you about Sherry Cree, homeswithsherry.com. If you been contemplating a real estate transaction, maybe you want to move to a different city, a different school district. There's various reasons you got to move. Sometimes you have to move for a job. Sometimes you just have to move because the neighborhood or your neighbors have gone crazy. Sometimes you're moving because you don't need the space as much, or maybe you're starting to need more space. Listen, whatever the motivation for moving or selling or finding a new home is, you need to have somebody that's kind of a partner with you, that can give that other set of perspective, not just from let's do this transaction, have it done within 30, 40, 55, 65 days, however long the listing goes on, hopefully quicker, maybe longer. Some people want to stretch it out, but you need to have somebody that kind of can help you look at it from a paradigm of this is where we're going now, but this is what we're trying to accomplish long-term. Real estate is oftentimes, whether it's the same house or different houses, every step is part of a long-term play. And you need somebody on your side that understands the long-term play, that they understand that it is about building generational wealth rather than just getting a closing or a quick sale or a quick purchase right now. It's really about the step this will play in the next 10, 15, 20-year strategy. Sherry Cree, homeswithsherry.com. I want to recommend, if you're in Broomfield, Boulder, if you're in Fort Collins, hello, Fort Collins, if you're in Greeley, if you're anywhere on that I-25 corridor, whether you're in the Denver metro area, the Fort Collins area, maybe you're down in Parker and you're trying to escape Tren de Aragua down there. Whatever the case may be, I want you to get in touch with Sherry. Lakewood, I know some of you moved to Lakewood, think you're moving to Lakeywood. I'm sorry they took the Y out of the name, and now they just call it Lakewood, and it's not necessarily where you want to live now because it's not called Lakeywood. If they put that Y back in there, it would be a fantastic place to live. So whether you want to move into Lakeywood or out of Lakeywood, wherever you're moving, homeswithsherry.com, have the conversation with her. I really have that conversation because obviously that's a big move, a big transaction, and there's just so many variables as to how you should approach it, and how you approach your listing in Aurora may be different than how you approach it in Loveland. Listen, there's a lot of different ways to approach it. There's a lot of different market variances, and you have to have someone that's up to speed on all of it. Homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. You're ready to sell? You're ready to buy? Don't forget the generosity that Sherry has. A portion of her commissions go to, she takes them and she donates them to the charity of your choice. Also, she discounts her commissions for people that are serving in the military, active duty, veterans, first responders. She will discount her commissions to you. She wants you to have your real estate dreams come true, and she wants it to be the best experience you can possibly have, and she wants to become your realtor for life. Homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. Be sure to tell her that it's me, Jimmy Lakey, talking about her on the program, homeswithsherry.com. All right, a couple more stories. We're waiting on the arrival of Jay Ratliff, our aviation travel expert. Again, the big story of the day, the big, beautiful bill has passed the House by a 1-vote majority. It passed this morning at about 5 o'clock Mountain Time. Breaking news. Also overnight, an anti-Semitic murder on the streets of D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser of New York, who's never really condemned the anti-Semitism and watches it run amok at the Ivy League schools that her people really love. She says it's horrible. We shouldn't allow this to happen. Well, Muriel, you should have condemned that a long time ago. Anybody got thoughts on this summer camp chaos where the state of Colorado is having to be sued once again? Jared Polis is having to be sued again for assaulting Christians in the way that they want to practice their faith. If you recall, we've had a cake baker called Jack Phillips at the Masterpiece Bakery that has been in nonstop lawsuits with radical Democrats out there because they wanted to force him to make a cake at his bakery celebrating gay marriage. He says it violates my principles. That's been an ongoing court case. He's made it to the Supreme Court, and the state of Colorado got slapped down on that one. The state of Colorado got slapped down during COVID for not letting Christians get together to worship because Jared Polis said he did not want you to get to worship anymore. And now you have a story about a camp called Idra Haji. Camp Idra Haji's famous camp in Colorado, been existing for kids 6 to 17 years of age. It's a summer destination camp. It's Idra Haji is the first words of the song, I'd Rather Have Jesus. Idra Haji. Look it up. And that camp has been told that they could lose their license to operate if they continue to preach basic Christian fundamentals when it comes to gender ideology. And if they don't let boys sleep in the girls' rooms and the girls get to shower in the boys' room, all that stuff, if you restrict that at Camp Idra Haji, you may lose your license to operate. That is the state of Colorado under Jared Polis, and Idra Haji is now going to court to sue Colorado for infringement upon their ability to teach the Christian values. I got a story here. We'll get to it later, maybe tomorrow, that there's more information coming out that the government lied to you about the booger cootie virus. Oops. That vaccine, yeah, they knew there were some problems with it. They didn't want to tell you about it. Ladies and gentlemen, Jay Ratliff, aviation and travel expert, joins me now on the in the stage in the green room. Jay, good morning to you, sir. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Pleasant good morning.
Pleasant good morning to you. Any problems at Newark this morning? You might as well just start there. That seems to be sucking up the news of the day. How's our air traffic control system, sir?
Weather in the Northeast is making it a headache as it is. And the shortage of air traffic controllers is further restricting the traffic flow in. We've seen some ground stops across the country for flights headed into that direction. But, you know, the FAA, I'll give them grief every time they deserve it. But from a traffic management standpoint, I have to give them high marks because they simply won't allow too much traffic to be in that area at any given time based on the number of air traffic controllers. So they're going to continue to do what they've always done, and that is to adjust the flow of traffic coming in there, which is tough on even a good weather day. But given the mess that we have weather-wise in the Northeast today, it's a slow go to Newark and several other airports as well.
We had a glitch here in the Denver control tower. I think they lost contact with planes in the tower for less than 30 seconds, but still a scary moment. The Austin airport has also seen some ground delays due to air traffic control. That's actually a personnel issue. Are we seeing the breakdown of the whole system? I mean, Newark seems to just be kind of the tip of the spear here.
I think that's an accurate and astute observation because we have a system that is, as we've talked about, the word antiquated. We use it all the time, but it's true. And Sean Duffy, when he says that they've got to go to eBay to find old parts that they no longer can find a supplier for, I think really demonstrates how old the system is. And we've got a shortage of air traffic controllers of about 3,500 across the country. And in Austin, they had a situation yesterday where the staffing there was lower than it needed to be. So they instituted ground stops on and off from about noon till 7:30 and affected about 160 flights that were delayed. And we're going to see that in every airport that we start having these issues with because sadly, we're just not able to stock the bench, if you will, with regards to air traffic controllers. And you can certainly understand why. Imagine the stress as it is of being an air traffic controller where there's literally no room for air. You've got to be on top of your game 100% of the time. And you're dealing with technology that is old, way old. And as a result, what ends up taking place is that, there's a lot of stress. And a lot of these men and women are saying, look, my screen went blank for 30, 40 seconds, 90 minutes, seconds, or whatever. And it puts them almost into an emotional meltdown where some of these men and women are taking these 45-day leave of absence just to take care of themselves. They're overworked and they're very, very well paid, obviously, for what they do. Jimmy, what we're seeing here is a work environment that is it's horrific. And that's one of the reasons we're having a really hard time keeping, from a retention standpoint, a lot of these qualified men and women, because they're like, I want to go find something that for my quality of life's sake, I can enjoy my life, because here it's show up, try to make this antiquated stuff work, pray it works. I mean, imagine if Donald Trump is successful over the next several years in getting them the very latest and greatest in technology. We give these men and women some new toys, they will definitely be sticking around because it's going to make their job easier.
The voice of Jay Ratliff. If you're listening to the later in the day podcast version of the show, that's Jay Ratliff, aviation and travel expert. Learn more at jratliff.com, RATLAFF. You'll also see a lot of day trading information. That's what he's legendary for as well. jratliff.com, that you can fire any kind of travel aviation question to him there if you need to. Jay, you sent me a story that kind of scares me because I was it arrived yesterday as I was going through with my travel agent that books my flights to Rwanda. I thought I was going in late June. It turns out I may be going in like 2 weeks. I mean, he's like, no, you're going to go. This is a great price and you can't beat it. European. I fly through Europe several times a year. The budget airlines, though, are contemplating a new way to save some money out there, and it looks kind of scary to me.
You know, people aren't going to like us when we talk about this, right? So, yeah, it's called the Skyrider seat. Skyrider. It came out. It was shown first in Hamburg, Germany. I want to say 2017, 2018, somewhere. It was many years ago. And it was unveiled as a lightweight alternative to a typical airline seat. It's slightly elevated, almost to a standing position, and it allows you to somewhat be seated in it, more leaning in it, seated in it. But the seats look cramped, uncomfortable, and I questioned when I saw it, look how fast you can be able to evacuate an aircraft in the event of an emergency, having a plane full of these. But these seats have finally gained approval in Europe, and a few low-cost carriers are going to actually start using them by next year. Now, this is probably, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be for flights 2 hours and less. But look, airlines love them. The seats are lighter, so less fuel as they operate the flight. And surprise, they can cram more seats onto an airplane with these stand-up seats, and that means more revenue. And if you do a Google image of the Skyrider 2, you can see what it looks like an amusement park ride. And I mean, I don't see, looking at these pictures, how anyone of size, and I'm not talking about super obese, I mean, anybody with size is going to be able to fit in these things. And as we have it now, and I've got to see the aircraft seating configuration, see how this is going to work. If you've got a situation where the person at the window seat has to go to the lavatory, well, these days you just kind of, squeeze past the knees and out you go. That's not happening here. Everybody's going to have to bail, get in the aisle to let that individual out. If the designs I'm seeing, and I've looked at a lot of them, are going to be what's going to be put on an aircraft. So, is this the future state of travel? It could very well be. And as crazy as it sounds, 20, 30 years from now, people may look back at today as the good old days of travel. Wow. If that doesn't scare you, I don't know what does.
I watch all these airlines make these moves and become more discount and save money. Is there any market out there? Maybe I'm just looking at it wrong. It seems like, would there be a niche out there for some airline to go, you know what, we're gonna make things fancier. We're gonna give you more seating. Is there a niche for someone to say, hey, we're gonna stop this discount crap and we're gonna be an airline for proper, dignified ladies and gentlemen? Is there any niche to that somebody could find a place in the market?
There is, but here's the problem. Airlines have tried this in the past because they go out and interview passengers, travelers, and they say, would you be willing to pay extra for this? An airline with fewer seats, more leg room, we actually treat you nice, blah, 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 blah. And of course, every single person interviewed says, you better believe I would. The problem is the consumer is very cost conscious. So when these airlines have gone out there to do what people have asked for, people don't book them, because if they can save $250 a seat and I got a family of 4, that's $1,000. I'll spend that on my vacation. As much as I would like to take advantage of that great airline experience, no, I'm going to go with, budget-o, cheapo airline and cram my family into there. So, and those airlines never, ever, ever stick around. It's a lot like in Europe when the passengers were asked a couple of years ago, would you be willing to pay extra on your ticket as a green tax to help the planet? You would pay 5, 10%, whatever, more on your airline ticket, because, airlines and airplanes kill the planet. And all these people through Europe said, oh, absolutely, we would. Then when they got the chance to actually do it, I think 4% of them did. So it's real easy to talk the game of spending money, but it really comes down to people just aren't going to do it. And it's sad because that means there's no real alternative for any of us. And airlines right now, we've seen it domestically, are here in the United States making it harder to use our frequent flyer miles. They're making it harder to use the executive lounges. They're making it harder to get upgrades. They're making it harder. And they don't care. They do not care how they treat us because they know that we're going to keep coming back.
Yeah, there's an airline, they're national, but they go to private airports called JSX. I'm sure you're familiar with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I love flying JSX. I've done it a couple of times to Vegas. But there are times, and I'm like, oh, gosh, that's like triple the cost of a Southwest Airlines flight to Vegas. And there's been times that I'll pony it up or times that I'll find a bargain. But, yeah, I like being treated like a dignified, proper gentleman. But to save a couple of $100, I march my butt out to DIA and get treated like a part of a herd of cattle.
Well, I know that my wife and I, when we fly Delta, who's our carrier of choice, we will try to get one of their Z seats, Z like zebra. It is a discounted, non-refundable first class ticket. It's considerably cheaper than a typical first class ticket, which I would never pay for. But we've used these to fly to Europe, to Asia, across the United States and around. And it's obviously more than coach, but it is way cheaper than those non-restricted first class fares. And if you can, plan your travel accordingly, those type of non-refundable first class tickets is an option that you could certainly consider, because at least then you've got a little bit more room. You're still not going to be treated real well, but at least you don't have to suffer like we do in the back. And that's one of the reasons these Comfort Plus seats in coach are becoming so popular, and why we're seeing Southwest and other carriers, Spirit included, look to add these to their budget aircraft, because more and more people are saying, I would pay a little bit more for these Comfort Plus seats. And that's not an entire aircraft. That's just a section. And in a full flight, you're going to see some passengers that are willing to do it. Airlines can make more revenue by designating that part of the aircraft for that. So at least we have that option on budget carriers. And I think Frontier talking about rolling up their first class section as well. And we're going to see budget carriers continue to morph into a different type of airline that's going to respond to what passengers want. And it's never going to get to where we want, but at least we're moving in that direction. And look, if we can support the low-cost carriers, that means that we're going to be able to put pressure on the big-time airlines to keep their fares affordable. And that's exactly what we want to do.
Jay Ratliff, aviation travel expert. One more quick thing. I know you got to run, but
Sure.
I dealing with my travel agent, dealing with getting to Africa in the next 30 days. Looks like the next 14 to 15 days I'll head over. But my travel agent said, hey, you're pushing back on the fares. You want cheaper fares. I can route you this way. And I said, no, thank you. And it was Denver to Istanbul and a 3-hour layover in Istanbul, and then Istanbul straight into Kigali. He said, it'll save you a few $100. And I said, never flown to Istanbul in my life, and I don't think I want to. Have you been to Istanbul?
I have been. I've not been to that airport, though. I've been to the city. And, but I mean, a lot of people go through there without any problem at all. And it's a popular gateway city out of Chicago, as well as Detroit in the Northeast, with airports with a lot of service through there. And I've got people that just love going through there. So everybody's got their own European airport of choice. If it's one of the London airports, for some it's Amsterdam, others it's Paris, and some it's Istanbul. And, as a result, you need to try it at least once, but at least you've got the option. And that's the beauty of it. And look, I tell you, on those international flights, if I've got a 2 or 3 hour layover, I'm not that bothered by it, because that gives me the opportunity, if my originating flight's a little bit delayed, I'm not freaking out hoping I'm going to make it, knowing there may not be options after the flight I missed to get me to my destination. So I tend to be a little bit more patient on the connections. In fact, when my wife and I fly now, we look for flights that have a more comfortable space for a bigger connection time. No more are we cutting it close, because Delta lets planes leave early, even if you're one of their top frequent flyers. So we said, well, forget that. If we're going to fly, we'll pick one that, has got a little bit more of a comfortable connection time of an hour plus. And that way we don't have to rush. We can relax a little bit more when we travel, because our schedule will allow it.
Yeah, those layovers don't bother me. It's I was worried about Istanbul. I was trying to do the research. I'm like, well, I would fly Turkish Airways if it's like UAE, but I got to do the research on that. I don't think it's like UAE.
But if you go through there, let me know, and I think I think that you'd like it. And it's again, because I've had a lot of people that have spoken very highly of it. Some don't care for it, but I think you would enjoy it. You're a seasoned traveler, so there's a lot there I think you would enjoy. And if you like certain foods, man, 3 hours there at that airport, you might enjoy some pretty good food.
I might enjoy good food, but I may regret that on the flight.
Yeah, this is true too.
It could be. I need to be in the laboratory for a while. Jay Ratliff, aviation travel expert, jratliff.com. Appreciate you, my friend. jratliff.com. That's what I was trying to do the research on, is whether or not the Turkish Air is, there's one thing to fly. Listen, I've never been to Abu Dhabi, but if you go there, you fly on United Arab Emirates Airlines or UAE, whatever. Those are nice planes, but I don't know the story. If anybody has information on Turkish Air, let me know. I told my travel agent I'm not interested in that, but now Jay Ratliff has increased my curiosity about flying through Istanbul. I would bid you all to do and say, this could be the last time you see me as I fly to Istanbul. The other problem is that 11-hour flight from Denver. It's nonstop, but it's for 11 hours. As opposed to the way I go now, it's either to London or to Brussels. So you can go to Amsterdam, but I don't get the frequent flyer points on that. And it's like a 6-hour flight, and then you get a break. And I like breaking it up into smaller increments. 11 hours, especially if I'm flying the coach, unless it's a UAE flight, I'm thinking I might not want to do that. I'll check into it. Turkish Air. Anybody got experience, let me know. Ladies and gentlemen, time for the stolen meme section of the show. Before we do it, don't forget, donate to our charity, riverspromise.org. We have a $50,000 fundraising goal this month, surrounding by our casino gala. And we hope you'll donate. If you haven't, donate $10, $20, $100, $1,000, whatever you do. $30 feeds a kid 2 meals a day for 30 days, a whole month, and $65 feeds them the food and sends them to school and gives them their health insurance. Would you help us out? Riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org. Love to hear from you today. Round and round the globe we go, where we steal the memes from. The Glow One knows. Here's meme number one of the day. It's insane. No picture to describe for you watching the podcast or listening to the podcast version, audio only. It's insane how many people need zero proof to believe a lie, but endless proof in order to accept the truth. Yeah, let that one sink in, my friends. This is pretty much deep philosophy here, but it is insane how many people need zero proof to believe a lie. Just get a little effort, Dr. Fauci or Joe Biden or Jill Biden out there, and they or Christine Jean-Pierre, and man, they don't need any proof. They believe a lie, but they need endless proof to accept the truth that Joe Biden's mental cognitive ability is one of those, and that's kind of how the media has played this. A great meme there. Think about it. Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Here's another text-only meme. I don't have to describe a photo. When people say, you look so familiar, responding with, oh, yeah, we were in prison together, it's almost always a conversational stopper. It is. Probably a bad way to reply. We ought to do that. The best conversation stopper we've ever had to end a conversation. We were in prison together. Round and around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from, no one knows. This is from the Babylon Bee. We do know that. Picture of the dome of Congress. Congress is split. The headline: Congress split between those who want to spend a ridiculous amount of money and those who want to spend an even more ridiculous amount of money. Yeah, there's the story of your modern day Democrat and Republican Party. Those who want to spend a ridiculous amount of money and those who want to spend even more ridiculous amount of money. And really, they all spend a ridiculous amount of money. They just all wanted to go different places, but it's still a heck of a lot of money. Round and around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Oh, look at the beautiful landscape photo there. My wife just asked me what a female version of a man cave is called. I told her it's a kitchen. That's a man who's looking for a divorce court or looking for the couch. My wife just asked me what a female version of a man cave is. Honey, what's a man cave for a woman? It's called a kitchen. Now, make me a sandwich. Somebody that's really sexist would say something like that. I would never say that. Round and around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Oh, this is so true. Look at the top photo. That's President Trump dressed up as a pope. Remember the AI generated thing that he was dressed up as the pope as? If this offends you, that President Trump has that image and he shared it on Twitter that was going around that someone created an AI of him in the papal robes. If this offends you, and then they have another image across the screen of the Paris opening ceremonies in which they mocked the Last Supper. They mocked Christianity. If Pope Trump offends you and the AI-generated meme, but the real people mocking the Lord's Supper did not offend you, you're a hypocrite and your outrage is fake. So anybody who said that they were just having artistic expression at the opening ceremonies in Paris, and yet you feigned this vapors. President Trump retweeted an AI-generated photo of him in papal garments. If you said that offended you, and yet you defended the display of blasphemy at the Paris Olympics, then you're a hypocrite, your outrage is fake, and you should shut your pie hole because you are an intellectually bankrupt person that don't have any arguments. Just throw that out there. Let's see if we have any more here. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Oh my goodness, we have milked the meme machine dry. Ladies and gentlemen, I am the boss of the broadcast, I just see, and thank you for being a part of it. Don't forget, if you'd like me to shout out your business like we do Sherry Cree, Corey Clinton, 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning, we talk about him oftentimes. Any of the people that you heard us talk about, if you'd like to be a part of that, we can arrange that. Just send us an email, info@jimmylakey.com. info@jimmylakey.com. We appreciate it. info@jimmylakey.com. We'd love to hear from you there. I'd also love to hear from you on the donation front for the charity. If you haven't sponsored a child or you haven't bought a month of just do 1 month of a child. $30 feeds that child for 1 month. If you do $30 today, who could do 30? Who could do 60? Who could do the education? We'd love for you to absolutely positively jump in there and help us out. Riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org. Coming up tomorrow, some of you may not be with us because you'll take that 4-day weekend. Monday will be off for Memorial Day. We won't do the show Memorial Day. Tomorrow will also, if you're looking for a place to celebrate Memorial Day, producer Chad, I was going to do it today, producer Chad, I totally spaced it, at the Louisville, Colorado Cemetery. The American Legion. They have a very special ceremony happening on Monday morning. I know producer Chad's probably going to be there. I think I'm going to try to make it. But if you're looking, we'll tell you about it tomorrow. If you're looking for a way to commemorate Memorial Day and those who, all the things that Memorial Day represents. Tomorrow morning, we'll give you information about a ceremony at the Louisville Cemetery in commemoration of Memorial Day, and we'd love to see you there. Ladies and gentlemen, until we meet again tomorrow morning, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Donate to Rivers Promise, riverspromise.org. May God bless you. May God bless America. I am Jimmy Lakey. Peace. I'm out of here.